Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 56 of the Office Hours podcast. This episode is a part two of the laws of software development, continuing the previous one. So, let's see. I haven't deliberately read the blog article, and Mo, in fact, even haven't sent me the link to it, so I don't know what's
Okay.
coming. But it will
Yeah.
be posted. It will be posted in the description of this one. So, Mo, take it away.
Yeah, I felt a bit guilty for like a few seconds. Like, was I supposed to send it to you? Then I realized, no, I wasn't supposed to send it to you.
Yes,
Yeah, so, okay, so I think the last time we did the other time, we stopped at the
we did the fifth one.
Linus, Linus
Yes,
law.
yes.
So, drum roll. Today, we start with the Hofstadter's law. Do you know about the
Hofstadter.
Hofstadter?
Is that the Hofstadter from Gödel, Escher, Bach? I keep throwing out the names of books because the names of authors seem familiar. I actually realized that I made a mistake in the last one, and Hiram is like a completely different Hiram from the one that I was talking about. And also,
Okay.
what is it? The Conway is also a completely different Conway, but
I
I put a little asterisks on screen to, correct that.
At least you know the names. They ring a bell. For me, I only know one Hofstadter. I know the guy from Big Bang Theory. Do you know that guy?
No,
Sheldon's roommate.
no,
You didn't see Big Bang
no.
Theory?
I don't see Big Bang Theory. No.
Okay. Well, there is this Hofstadter,
Hmm.
Sheldon's roommate. So that's the only Hofstadter I know. So I don't think he could have been responsible for this law. But if you know any if you know any Hofstadter, um, I think there's a name for this one.
Hmm.
Does Douglas Hofstadter ring any bell
Yeah,
to you?
Douglas Hofstadter. I think that's the guy who wrote Gödel, Escher, Bach. It's like a very, very popular book, but it's like this thick, and I've been convinced to read it. But it's kind of hard to get a hard copy, and for an ebook, because it has like a lot of graphics and illustrations. From what I understand, it's kind
Mm,
of a pain in the ass to read from a book reader. So it's still on my to read list. I might get
mm.
to it eventually, but there's too many things on that list as it is.
Yeah, yeah. I can relate to that. There is a lot of books that you want to, but yeah, it just feels like every minute just keeps moving too fast. Like slow down. So, this law is should I read it or do you want to try?
I mean, I don't know it by name, so at least have to start reading the definition and see if
Okay.
I if it rings a bell.
Okay. So, Hofstadter's law serves as a reminder of how consistently inaccurate we tend to be when estimating the time required for tasks, especially in software development.
Yeah.
This, I
Okay.
don't know why, how the guy, what is his relationship with this, but
Yeah.
bang up,
Okay.
actually.
So I haven't known that as a law. Maybe how exactly is it formulated?
The law actually is that it always takes longer than you expect,
Right.
even even when you take into account,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's 100% true. Okay, I haven't heard it in the formulation, but it once you read it, it's like stuff takes longer than anticipated. It's like, well, duh, no shit.
yeah.
I had one project where we were following like a waterfall model of development, and we had this 4 or 5 month plan with like all the
Mm.
different tasks on a Gantt chart, like one connected to
Yeah.
the other. And then we followed that plan exactly and delivered on a date. And that was like the one time that ever happened in my entire career. And I was like how? Like that never happens, right?
On the exact day.
Well, pretty much. Like it wasn't like it was.
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't like the exact date, but overall we stuck to it. Like pretty much every major milestone, we went and
Yeah,
hit the milestones in a way
very
where
impressive.
like as scheduled. But yeah, like estimation is a really, really difficult thing, and everybody sucks at it. And you can only get better at it if you actively analyze all of the gaps. So like, when you start a process, you would estimate it the best you can, and you arrive at some figure, right? And then in theory, if you want to improve it, you have to be able to capture the original estimate, how long it took, and then go back and analyze what parts you missed to make better educated decisions next time.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, those bands should like shrink to something resembling like an actual thing. But even then, the unknown unknowns as they are, no one's kind of guaranteed from encountering those. And the other part is that, there's a couple of things in there too, is work is like a gas. It occupies the entire space allocated for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, even if you're given like a tiny task, but you're given a week to do it, you'll happily take a week doing it and just not really doing anything else, right? Even though it could have been done in an hour. It's just the nature of like work in that environment, because you're like, oh, I have a week. Like, why would I sweat, right? And the other part to this is at every level, because a lot of these projects, they have to be, approved and planned and all of that stuff. And nobody likes surprises. So at every level, everybody just kind of like doubles the estimates as a worst case
Yeah.
scenario. So you say 1 hour, and then it turns into a day, and then it turns into a week, and then it turns into a month by the time it adds the like director
Mm-hmm.
level of approval. And they look down and are like, holy shit, such a simple thing takes a month. And then it ends up taking a month and a half because, stuff happens. So yeah,
But
10 out of 10.
yeah, I agree completely with this. But I wanna, while we were just talking about it, something came to mind, right? I realized that sometimes if do you think you work better when there is a deadline,
Yes.
or do you think you would rather like you feel more relaxed when there's no? Because I noticed that if there is something that should take me like if you give me something to do and you say like, yeah, we need this like on Wednesday, I will deliver it on Wednesday
But you do all the
because
work
in my
Tuesday
mind,
night.
yeah, and then have it ready. However, I will have it ready on Wednesday. However, if you say, yeah, we need it soon, if you don't give me a time, you
Yeah,
know,
define soon.
which is defined soon,
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think like, I don't know if this is just me, if it's a personality type, or if it's like it's the same for everybody. How do you can you relate to this?
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I mean, I think that it's nice to alternate these two. It's nice to kind of give yourself a little kick if you have something that's urgent and needs to get done. Um and you just kind of, you put your effort into it. But there's some kind of tasks where trying to hurry it up only makes it worse. And for those, you just kind of need to do the exploration, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if somebody says, hey, the framework we're using brought us to a place where we can't reasonably, implement the things we want because the framework was not designed for that, and we need to swap it for something else. And, can you research what to swap it for? It's not like they can say, yeah, you have like 1 day to do it, because it's a very intense task. Like you have to consider a bunch of things. So rushing that type of work usually is not very productive. But for more kind of just implementing what's already been previously designed, especially in a well-known parts of the system, like those you should just be able to bang out like pretty quickly. So I've worked in both situations. I think that, again, we talked about it last time in terms of like you remember the conversation about the measurement and improvement, and
Mm-hmm,
getting
mm-hmm,
more
yeah,
out of your team. Like you can't just run all the time. You have to take some time to stop and rest, right? So
yeah.
you can get more focused and more driven under a tighter deadline. But if your entire time you're working is just one tight deadline after the other, uh, it gets really difficult.
Is it weird for me? See, I said this thing one time. I was talking to one of my um team leads.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were just having like a casual conversation, and I realized that I don't know if it's weird to even say it out. Because now I'm feeling a bit like maybe I should just keep my mouth shut. I like the adrenaline that comes with deadlines. If you tell me, oh, we need to do this like next week, I like how, but maybe it's just a personality thing. Like I like how, like, yeah, I can feel like there is something to do next week. So all my energy is focused on what's going to happen next week. And I just like go there, think about it, get it done. And I like being productive.
Yeah.
So, but if you tell me like, yeah, maybe then I start taking my sweet time, designing every code, looking for like the best way to write and solve this. But I mean, I still work good, even if like it's just like the rush. I enjoy it. Should I be talking to someone?
No, I think that's fine. The only thing is that like, what are the long-term risks of that approach? Because I mean, it's one thing to just have like, it also depends on the size of a task. Like if the task can reasonably done within a week, then it's fine to expect a week's turnaround. But if you're rushed to plug some hole, if it's like some sort of emergency situation where you're just like applying some sort of crutch to tie you over for whatever is currently happening so it stops happening, and it's not intended to be a permanent solution, or your solution may end up in your head, it's like, okay, we're just doing this for now to like, stop some sort of crisis. And then it ends up being permanent solution. You're like, oh, it wasn't even designed for that, right? So there could be long-term consequences to rush development that are really hard to undo later on. And if you don't care about the long-term consequences, then by all means, we just do like a hack job and
No, I mean,
whatever.
I'm not
Maybe
saying like
maybe I'm not answering the exact question, but it's just kind of the thoughts that I had.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying like 1 week deadline. Nobody wants to work like that. It's just like I like when there is a time frame. When there is a time frame that we're working toward.
Yeah. I think it's nice when you have a time frame where a lot of the things are known and you don't expect any weird things cropping up. But sometimes if you find something middle of the way and all of a sudden all of the deadlines are now, they turned from reasonable to unreasonable, like that's not a nice place to be in. You know what I mean? Like if you discover something and all of a sudden your approach is like, oh shit, now we realize it's going to take twice as long because of X and Y. But all of the deadlines have already been committed and everything, and like you can't just arbitrarily change that. And now it's like, oh, now we have to kind of figure out a way to do that. Which I guess is not really related to the law discussion that we've started from.
At all.
In the woods.
It just came to mind, and I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I should be talking to someone about this. I don't know. Some people might attribute it to different personality types, but I don't know. And sometimes I just want to enjoy myself and take my sweet time anyway. So anyway, It depends. So the next law, I don't even know if I can pronounce his name correctly. I'll try. It's the Kernighan. Kernighan's law.
Kernighan? Is that like the guy from Ritchie and the Kernighan, the C++ designers? Brian Kernighan, I think, is the name.
That's it. Hold on. It's Brian Kernighan. Oh, who is this guy? Who is this guy again? Who is he?
Isn't he the author of C++? Or is that Strauss?
No,
he's like definitely of C or C++ fame, but because I don't use C or C++, I don't remember exactly. But he's like one of the greats.
Let's do, who is Brian Kernighan? Let's do a little bit of research.
So it's like Dennis Ritchie and Brian Kernighan. They did the book. I don't remember the name. I'm ashamed.
You know this guy? He's Canadian.
Oh yeah.
Would you believe it? Yeah, he's Canadian. This is the first thing I saw. Listen. What you need to know about him? Okay. Interesting.
Well, are you going to share with the rest of the class?
Apparently, he worked at Princeton University, Department of Computer Science. He has a book called The Orc Programming Language, AWK. I don't
Oh, okay,
really know
okay.
this.
Yeah, he probably wrote like a bunch of Unix
Yeah.
standard tooling.
So he worked also history and a memoir with since its creation in Bell's Labs. He worked in
Bell's Labs, yeah.
Bell
I was
Labs.
thinking
Yeah,
about
Bell's
Bell
Labs.
Labs too.
Okay. Ah, he's a big deal. He's a big guy, actually. Interesting.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
programming language, no?
yeah, yeah.
Actually, yeah, he wrote a book about the Go programming language recently with
Yeah, so
Alan
he, he
Donovan.
he wrote the C programming language book with Dennis Ritchie, which is like considered the gold standard, or at least was. I don't know if it's still the case, but you know, even when I was in school, like this was the book to go for like C. So it's not C plus plus.
Probably
It's
read that book.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what?
So
Now
it's
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 starting to
even the
sound
book itself
familiar.
is called KNR because of Kernighan and Ritchie, so it's abbreviated that way. But yeah, it's been a while since I touched anything
Dennis
C
Ritchie.
related.
I
So
remember this
yeah,
guy. You know what? I remember this guy too. You know what?
the book is
Now it's
very
coming to my
iconic.
head.
It's just like big letter C on a
Yeah.
white background. Like
Yep.
yeah, you
Yep.
you
I,
probably
I
have
had.
seen it and read it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
I have. Anyway, that's
So
good to know. I
that
didn't know
guy.
this.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So he was talking about how everyone knows that debugging is twice as hard as writing a program in the first place. So if you are as clever as you can be when you write it,
You
how
are
will
not
you
clever
ever
enough to debug it by definition.
how will you ever debug it?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do you think?
It's a good one. It's an interesting one. That one I haven't really had a chance to think about in depth. So basically, if like he's saying like if you're writing at the top level of your ability, because debugging it is twice as hard, you are by definition incapable of debugging what you just wrote.
I don't agree with this though. I don't know, maybe I don't understand it like he did,
Mm.
but I don't think I agree with it.
I think I would say I agree with it because you're not developing in a vacuum. I think the only time where this might not apply is if you like design your own computer architecture and build so like you control the entire world
Mm-hmm.
for that program and you know everything there is to know about it, then you should be able to debug it. But normally these days we write stuff that plugs into much bigger ecosystem, and whatever adverse effects outside of your code can still influence what your program does. And in that way, you might be able to be smart enough to write it, but not smart enough to understand all of the impacts of all of the external factors on it, which would make it really hard for you to debug. Like I remember reading about some
So,
cases where people say, uh, you know, there was a blog post from a guy. I would not be able to find it probably, but he was saying like, oh, I suspect it's a bug in the Intel CPU. And everyone's like, are you crazy? Like, there's no way in hell. But it was, in fact, a bug in the Intel CPU, and he submitted an errata for it, and they like said, yep, that one's on us. And, and he was like really good, but any other developer would have been just completely stumped by what's going on because it's a bug in a CPU. Like, what the hell are you going to do? Like, you wouldn't even think about checking for that. So those situations do happen.
so the way I understand it, I think so if you're writing like if you write it, I'm thinking about it like regular programming, right? I guess like there's levels to it. Maybe if you're writing like machine language or like assembly or this kind of other things. But if you're writing level like JavaScript or like the regular languages, I said regular, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Like I think also writing a maintainable and a clear code can help you to debug a bit more easily. And nowadays we even have like more debugging tools. Like
Right, but
we have
that's the point is that like I don't know, how many times did you debug like React internals or Angular internals? Like, how
You don't
comfortable are you
even
debugging Angular internals to
so
understand
we
what's
don't
happening in your code and why it's happening in your code?
this is yeah, so this is where I'm going from. We don't even nowadays, we don't even need to go that far anymore. Do we? Have you ever had to? Like when
Yeah.
was the last time you had to?
I mean, it wasn't recently, but I did debug definitely React before 18. So like classes before like the whole hooks thing. And
See?
Angular JS for days and Angular TypeScript a few times.
But you don't have to go. Like say when you debug, what are you
I'm
going? You're
saying I'm
going
saying like reading Angular sources and trying to understand what the heck is going on debugging.
So, well, I guess I understand. It depends on what you do and the problem you're solving, maybe. But where I'm coming from is like if you write good, clear codes, it might be easy for you to trace.
Mm.
To so again, you can remember the last time I sent you a blog post about the interview guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The remember the structure of that code when we're talking about having like a function and a function and everything is like together somewhere. This kind of things is where you can have like problems. Like if you have your code well written, well organized
Right, but
in a way.
I would not call that code the code written at like the top of my ability, right? That was a pretty basic ass code. So, I mean, I have no problem reading it and understanding what it does right away. His question is if you write the most complex thing that you can, well, maybe not necessarily the most complex. Like, it's kind of hard to say what he meant by that
I could read like there's an
because,
explanation somewhere. Let me read it out. So it was
yeah.
saying like writing too complex codes could be dangerous for system maintenance. If the code is written with excessive complexity, debugging becomes even more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Since you have to first decipher the logic before fixing any issues, simplicity in coding is key.
Yeah.
Writing clear, maintainable code makes it easier to debug and improve in the long run. This
Okay.
is
Okay.
literally what I was saying.
Okay. I think with that formulation, I would then agree that I think probably what was meant by the top of the game, it's like I can hold this complex algorithm in my brain and then code it in like the tersest version possible and it works.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
then 6 months later, I'm unable to reconstruct that thing back into my brain without having to effectively rediscover the whole thing from scratch. So at the time, because I was like, I'm this good, I can just visualize it all in my head and like spit it out in whatever 25 lines of very very terse code. Like I don't know, if you look at some Perl code with all of its
Mm,
ultra terse syntax,
mhm.
you can write it in a moment, or like a regular expression, you write it in a moment and
Oh,
you get what it does, but you look at it 2 weeks later and it's like, I have no idea what's going on, right? So, and I was going at that saying at the top of my game, I prefer to write like really simple, really kind of easy to understand code. I used to have a phase where it would just be like some complex monstrosities which made
oh,
sense to me at the time, and now I look back and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, no wonder, like nobody can make any sense of that. It's time to simplify and simplify and simplify once more.
yeah. I agree. Like, I think this is why, like, for me, I even like nowadays, even when I do like reviews, I like to see like when people like have like one responsibility for one function. Like your function should not have like more than one responsibility. If it's getting to also like you have like some functions with like bunch of ifs and else, and like you have all these cyclomatic complexities, and like I don't know. But anyway, I get this part. It's just like nowadays, even if you have like complex methods, we have more sophisticated debugging tools
That's
nowadays.
that's true, but he was writing way before we
Way
had
before
all of
you,
the crazy
yeah.
tooling. Like, have you ever tried
Yeah.
debugging using DBG with its line-based interface? Like, I mean,
What is
those
that?
guys were like up there in terms of their level, being able to,
Yeah,
like, the tooling that we have right now compared to what they had back then, it's like rockets versus sticks and stones. But the thing is that they
yeah,
used sticks and stones to build the rockets, so you have to have all of the respect that you can for that.
But what speaking of this now, how do you feel about like software development now as compared to that the other where would you want to be? Would you say you would rather be in this generation or in that generation?
Well, you know, the same way as I would not necessarily advocate for people to go back to caves and cook their food on open fire, I would probably say that we have it pretty good right now. And just out of personal comfort level, I
Yeah.
probably would not really desire to go back. Um, I think knowing what I know now, all of those systems would be so constrained, right? Because, like, probably unrelated, but like I'm watching this guy who's doing reverse engineering on Nintendo 64 because it has a very peculiar architecture, and he's basically making these hacks for the Super Mario 64 game to like add new levels and also like massively improve rendering performance. And he's
Mm.
saying like at the time that architecture was so new that they didn't even know really what they were doing, and they were doing a bunch of really silly things in there, and their performance is really suffering horribly because of that. And you can get like 120 fps out of Super Mario 64 on real hardware today if you do the optimizations correctly, because we now know so much about that
Mm-hmm.
architecture, right? So, but I guess there's a lot of charm of actually working under such constrained conditions, because it's like you said, it's not a deadline challenge. It's like, how can I fix my code into 256 bytes of RAM challenge, right? And make the machine
Mm-hmm.
do what I want it to do. It's almost kind of like solving these puzzles, um, which is there's something to it, but at the same time, every time we go camping in an inclement weather, I'm always thinking, man, I'm so happy that I can just return to my house that is dry, where the roof is not leaking, and sleep in a warm bed. And I
Yeah.
probably take the same approach to that. It's like, do not over romanticize it. We have it pretty good right now. Like,
I agree, yeah. But the root of my question, of this question,
yeah,
was because like when you were in school, when you read all these like computer science books, I don't know, like you look at all these people, you probably see their pictures or you see them in like speaking,
yeah.
the platforms, and then you sometimes they're like role models and you really want to be like these people and you feel like, yeah, I want to know a lot about like computer science just so you can be like this. But well, we don't even have to do as much as they did. And some of the what they know now is not even that much. I'm afraid to say, I don't know if we can. I mean, they know a lot of things, but
I see what you're
I
trying to
don't know how
say
to.
and why you don't
Yeah,
want to
like
say it out loud.
because I feel like we moved, like technology moved,
But
right?
I think we talked about it before, right? We talked about it, and I said that we are living in a penthouse at the top of the skyscraper, but they've built the foundation and the basement and all of the supports that hold us and where we are.
Exactly.
So without knowing what they know, we cannot maintain the skyscraper. So once they're gone, we're so thoroughly screwed.
Yep, that's the point. So now, what are we gonna do? Because now, like you said, we're at this top of the penthouse.
Yeah.
And when all these people, because look at all these people, like nowadays, we're not getting like, oh yeah, this person built a new programming language. I mean, we still have some
Oh,
that
there's a ton
keeps,
of new programming languages.
yeah,
Like,
coming
there's no
up, but
shortage of new programming languages. I
yeah,
can
I
tell you
mean,
that.
like I'm trying to say, like a big revol. I mean, the latest thing we've had so far is like maybe AI
It's
or
just
like
fancier models for AI.
do you understand?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but these people really did like the innovations, like
yeah.
the big stuff. But nowadays, software engineering is no longer going in that. It's more commercialized now. It's like how many applications, how much money can we get from selling this application?
Yeah.
People are not thinking about like, let's build something that will like,
Yeah.
revolutionize stuff or something like this. I guess this is what I'm thinking. Like we're mostly thinking about the commercial side of it.
Yeah,
Like
but
we're thinking about how
that's
to
a
make money
natural
from it.
cycle, right?
These people are not rich. Like the people that were making calling their names now, I don't think they are rich.
Probably not. But also, I believe that being rich through computer science was not their goal. I think originally they did it for just enjoyment of it.
Exactly. And nowadays, people come into this industry because of the salary or because of like, oh yeah, like the how do you say, the expectation of what you can get from it.
Yeah.
And it's not wrong. We all work for a reason, right? Like
Right.
it's not wrong at all. But people like
I imagine like if we are to continue on a happy path for humanity, some years from now, there's gonna be people, I don't know, piloting rocket ships through space who are nowhere nearly as competent as like modern NASA astronauts or, you know, Russian cosmonauts or whatever, who have to go through like years of enduring training and being able to operate in space. It'll just be commodified, and it's just like, yeah, I just have a rocket, I fly to another planet, and I just drive it like I drive my convertible right now, right? It's gonna go there anyway, right? And
yeah,
like, okay. The problem is not with the fact that we are so spoiled. The problem, I think, is with the fact that we don't. If I'm thinking about it fairly often, not as often as about the Roman Empire, but still. But you know, if we have some sort of cataclysmic event, an EMP of some sort that like fries all of our electronics, will we be able to rebootstrap to where we are right now again? And I don't think so, to be honest with you. I just
I
don't
think
think that we have the capability to,
I don't
you
know.
know.
I think we might do it, but maybe struggle. Also, I'm saying all of this just with a vision, like a very limited vision right now. Like I can just see my circle
Mm-hmm.
and the places I've been to. I'm pretty sure like maybe in other places people are doing like really big, innovative stuff and like they're doing complex stuffs
Mm-hmm.
and trying to change the world. I hope so. It's just like I'm speaking from my own point of view right now. I feel like um nobody is trying to do, I mean, someone built like compilers or like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. And maybe a little bit. I'm afraid to say it too much because I know like maybe I'm just speaking from my own vision, from just like where I see what I see. Say, for example, nowadays, you learn the programming language. You probably can know how to code without even understanding how the compiler really works.
Yeah.
You probably can know how to build complex softwares, fairly
We
complex
made it so
softwares.
convenient that you don't need to know.
You don't need to know. So if someone is explaining to you how a compiler works, you are wondering like, why should I know this? Like,
Yeah.
what should I do with this information? You know?
That,
And
that that
this
depends.
is
That depends on really what you're trying to build. That really depends on your requirements.
also
Yeah.
Also, exactly. Also, that's why I'm saying like it depends on like where you work and like the industry where you work. Because people who work in like in the tools industry, I think maybe they might
Yeah.
listen to what I'm saying and be like, yeah, this guy.
And I mean, it's happening across the all the aspects of the industry. Because I was thinking about the example saying, you know, oh, the software engineers that work on games really need to know their compilers because they have to output the most optimized code possible. But then I thought about it, and another thought came into my head, and it's like, yeah, but now there's Unity and all sorts of
Yeah,
people, all sorts of games. They all run like shit. Nobody knows how to optimize them, but more powerful graphics cards come out every 2-3 years. So who gives a shit, right? We're just gonna throw more compute at it, and the problem will solve itself.
it is what it is.
It
But
is
that's
what
what
it
I'm saying.
is.
Like, I guess I guess
And
when all this generation leaves, we'll find maybe it will be you, Vasily.
yeah, if you want to be if you want to be worried, I think I mentioned this before, but there's an excellent talk by John Blow calling "On Decline of Civilization," where he talks about the things that you know ancients did that we were not able to replicate. Uh, but on a positive note, for the longest time, I think I brought it up before as well, is that like we did not know how to make Roman concrete, but they recently have rediscovered the methodology of making the Roman concrete. So not all is lost. Some of it can be potentially rediscovered. However,
Okay,
it's nice knowing how to make Roman concrete, but knowing how to,
use it.
synthesize the dies for modern, like 4 nanometer scale CPU chips, they're slightly different in terms of complexity and the ability to rediscover them again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we will probably. You know what? Also, if you look forward, maybe like the the direction. Maybe we are looking from the back. If you look forward, maybe you can also see the direction technology is going now with like, the cloud
Yeah.
technologies and like everything. I
Learn
don't know.
COBOL today.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the point of view, like the perspective you're looking at it from. But anyway, moving on.
Moving
We're gonna
on.
talk about about another law.
Is it the last one or is it
I think this is the last one.
this is
Yeah,
the
this is
last
the
one?
last one.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is actually a principle. It's called the Peter Principle.
Oh yeah, that one I definitely know.
Go on.
It's like eventually you'll reach the limit of your income. With every promotion, there's going to be the one where you'll reach the limit of your competence and become incompetent in the role that you will be now occupying.
Exactly. People in a hierarchy tend to rise to a level of respective incompetence. How come?
Well, so a lot of times, and we talked about it a few podcasts before, is that like you're always playing the catch-up game in terms of, if you go for a new position, you need to have new skills. And throughout your career, normally, usually you have the time and energy and ability to learn those new skills, but that ability diminishes with age and other things. And so eventually it becomes like, you know, it ends up running faster than you. So you get into the new role that requires all these new competencies, and you're just unable to acquire those competencies anymore because it takes too much time or effort or cognitive capacity or whatever.
Okay.
And then you're already occupying the position that expects these competencies, yet you don't have them. So you are incompetent and you're not able to get them, or you're not able to get them in a reasonable time. So you remain incompetent. Like you'll likely not be able to go any higher, but you are yourself are unwilling to go lower to stay at the level where you are comfortable. So you end up occupying this weird zone where, you're here, but your skills are actually still down here, and that's never going to change.
But shouldn't people go to the next level? So, for example, in schools, I'm using like academic environment. So, like, if you're going from like grade 10 to grade 11, like, I mean, you're young at the time, so maybe it's not a good example, but I'm just trying to put a concept to it.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I
if you go
understand.
from,
Like you have to take an
if you go
exam
from,
before you're allowed into next class.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it means like you're ready for the next step
Yeah.
before you get to the next step, and that in the next step you can continue. I mean, if you don't pass the exam, you remain there, but as long as you keep passing your exam, you keep going to the next step.
Right, but it works in school because it's an artificial environment. But how many times would you say, if somebody comes to you and say, hey, you're an intermediate now, we can give you a position of a senior, which comes with like a hefty pay increase, and you would say, yeah, I'm not ready for that yet. Like, how many people
Well,
would make that decision? How many times?
don't say money. If you say money now, you change my answer.
Well, okay. So why would you change positions unless there's going to be more benefits accrued to you, even at the cost of additional responsibilities.
To be honest,
Like, are you doing charity? It's like, yeah, I'm going to do all of these things on top of what I'm doing right now, and I don't expect anything in return. Like, where has that ever worked?
if I'm honest, like this is not even like I'm being completely honest, I probably might say yes. You know why? I have this mentality, yeah. I feel like
It's like the
at
whole
work,
fake it till you make it. But then
no,
eventually they don't
no,
make
no,
it. So they end
no.
up
This is
faking
not
it.
even it. No, I have this kind of mentality where like I feel when I go into a job and you think you're taking advantage of me by giving me a lot of work to do. I feel like you're preparing me for when I leave you because now you will depend on me as like, oh, uh, he gets to take care of all of this and we don't need to compensate him that much. So you are used to it. The day I decide to leave, you will be the one in problem, but I have added more value to myself because I've learned new skills. I've learned more things. I've been able to train myself better. So the next time I leave, I'm going to negotiate
I
to give
think
you
I
money.
think that is true, but if you look at the careers in terms of like your overall value, it probably kind of goes up, but then it does start plateauing eventually. Like you're not going to acquire all the skills, like it's not like a linear growth where you're just constantly acquiring new skills. Like eventually it will settle at some level, and in some cases potentially even start like going down in the other direction with time. So you
Yeah,
can
but
you can
like everything.
operate on that
Like
model if you're
everything.
on this side of the slope, but once you hit the peak or hit the other side of the slope, that system doesn't really work anymore.
This is my question now. Like, how do you get to that peak? Say, say for example, now you start your career as a let's use our industry. You start your career as a junior dev.
Mm-hmm.
You go from a junior, let's even say intern.
Yeah.
You start as an intern, you keep going, you become a junior dev. From a junior dev, you become a dev, and then like you go to senior, continue,
Yeah.
and then let's say now you are a tech lead, and after completing all the steps, now you're a tech lead, and you're responsible for like all the technology decisions in your team. And from there, maybe you give it a couple more years, you become a staff dev, and then from there, like you go to a principal dev. You see, you are acquiring experiences on each of these steps. So it feels like you're taking points on each of these steps. At what point do you get to a point where it plateaus, like in our industry?
I don't know. I hope that I haven't reached that point yet, but I don't know. I'll tell you once I find out for myself. Maybe I have. Who knows? Maybe I don't know. It's not a pleasant idea to think about regarding oneself that you have reached your
Nah.
plateau. You know.
Mm, yeah, but I'm just curious because like you have principal devs, you have all these people, and then before you get to like the CTOs and like all these guys. But so I'm trying to put this principle into perspective, right? At what level? Maybe you lose interest, or maybe you no longer enjoy the,
Well, I
the
mean, you
track.
probably you probably have encountered this principle in practical terms, where, and I think unfortunately, I don't know if it's been formulated specifically in the software industry. I think it's just broadly across the board, across any industry. But I think some type of promotions require a more like a lateral change in skill set. So it's not like the growth of your existing skill set, but you're now shifting into a skill set that you haven't previously had, and that's where it would happen. Because you've grown this skill set up to here, but this new role requires some other skill set up to here, but you only have it like up to here and you can't catch up
Okay,
with it, right?
okay. Let me see. Let me see if the success often comes with a price. Okay. In many cases, individuals are promoted to higher and higher positions based on their achievement. However, there comes a point where the demand of the role may exceed their ability. In software, this is frequently seen when successful developers are promoted to managerial
Yes,
position.
because it is a
Yes.
shift. It is a shift in the skill set, and then they bomb pretty badly, kind of like myself.
Yeah. Oh, you're not bombing.
I am bombing pretty hard.
Why you say that about yourself? You're doing good, no?
In a management role, not even remotely close.
What would you do differently
About what?
to feel better about
Well, I
like
need to be better in order to feel better, and since I'm not getting better, I can't feel better. It's that's the thing.
I'm curious. Actually, you know what? Well, maybe another time. Next week we'll probably talk about. I would like to know. I would like to know because I don't. There's also this part where like I feel like most times we might be like the most critical. How do you say? Biggest critic, self-critic.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you are doing better than you think, you know, and
Mm,
for and maybe you just need to analyze it
all the
and
external
realize.
signs point otherwise. Let me just say that.
Well, I guess next week or another time when we talk about this, I would really like to know why you feel this way.
All
But
right, sounds good. So yeah,
this is
send me
fun.
the link to the blog so I can post it
Okay,
so everyone can read for
okay.
themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been pretty fun. Next week, so next
Ah.
week I'm in LA. I'm bringing my gear, so I
Mhm.
think that we'll be able to record one while I'm there, and the next one after that, if the stars align, and you know, but there could be a little bit of a hiatus while I'm going on vacation, which YouTube is gonna punish me for dearly. But yeah, that's another thing.
Well, I was just checking the stuff, and then I think there is one that we missed, the Pareto Principle. You
Oh, the
know?
Pareto Principle. Yeah, I mean we talk about it all the time. You know,
Yeah, this is all the time. Roughly, for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences comes from
20%
20%
of
of
the
effort.
effort. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
is true beyond true.
yeah, this is very common, and
Yeah,
everybody knows this. By the
and
way, it was
yeah,
Vilfredo Pareto.
yeah. He was an Italian mathematician, I think, right? Was he Italian?
See, I don't know. It sounds
You
Italian.
need to
I
spend more
hope
time
so.
on Wikipedia, Mo. Just read it. Start reading. You know, any time you start. Okay, you need to play a game. You need
Okay,
to go on Wikipedia for some. Not right now, but I mean in general, because it's gonna take some
okay,
time. Like you go on Wikipedia, you start reading some article, and then you click the links away from that article and see where you end up like after 10 clicks.
okay. You know what? That sounds actually no worries. So Vilfredo is an economist.
Oh, I
He
was an
was
economist. Yeah, that makes sense.
but of course, it sounds Italian. He's
Yeah,
Italian.
he's Italian. Yeah. So what was it?
Polimo.
Oh yeah, I was saying like applied to organizations, it also means that like 20% of the people do 80% of all the work. And within those 20%, there's going to be another 20% who do all the work. And it's kind of self-referential like that. It's kind of like a big fractal.
Well, honestly, from my own view, I don't really think. I mean, you know what? I have a question for you. Vasily, how do you feel about, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot now, like if you look into like your company's um hierarchy
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like organization, like the chart, like I don't know if you have the same, like maybe you have like above your team, you have like the directors and like the manager and all this kind of thing. How how will you describe the effect of their responsibility as it affects like the company? Say for example, sometimes I used to wonder, and then I think I asked you like a few weeks ago. I used to wonder some of the roles that I see in like in some of these organizations. I think there is an idea to it, but it doesn't necessarily translate into the real scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're not really close to the teams, but they make decisions on the team. Like sometimes maybe like a CTO or like someone who hasn't really even been in the team, like then he wakes up one day and he says like, you know what? Everybody should write in JavaScript now. But
I've been in that situation before. I don't
like
know if that particular type of change works too well, because the type of change that you've just described, I've been in that before, where a CTO says, "Oh, everybody switch to language X because I said so," effectively. I think that type of change only works if you fire everybody who's not working with technology X and hire people who do work with technology X, and then you make the switch. Because otherwise, it's a complete shit show. I would not recommend 3 out of 7.
I guess.
On the other hand, in terms of my impact on the overall organization, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. And
Okay.
if I come back, everything is just perfectly fine and the quality hasn't dipped and we haven't had any bugs or anything like that, then I'm entirely useless. And we'll see, you know.
Basically, well, we'll see. When you come back, we'll talk about it. For sure, I'm pretty sure like sometimes this happens. Like you might
Which
just
is
need to.
technically, it's kind of like it tickles one fancy, but it's not ideal either, right? Like the bus factor is really high. You don't want to have that guy on a team that if he's gone, everything grinds to a halt. That's not great either. And I'm not saying that I am that guy. Maybe in some extents, in some ways, but I definitely don't want to be like the linchpin of the entire team. So my absence just wrecks everything. I'd rather not be in that position. And yeah, we'll find out. So
Yeah, because there's a life to be lived. It's work. You work and then you leave. But anyway, I hope you enjoy your vacation, Vasily.
yeah.
I'm rooting for you to
Well,
enjoy.
if everything works out, we'll be recording at least 2 episodes while I'm gone. So
Okay.
you'll have the first-hand accounts off
Okay.
camera.
Okay. Looking forward to it, Vasily.
Looking forward to it too. Well, thanks everyone for sticking with us and going through the rest of the laws and our thoughts on it. I hope you liked it, and read the article, see what you think about it, leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.